Hello, welcome to this episode of the In the Nick of Time podcast. Today's going to be back to our regular The Legality of, which was requested by our audience. We have our special guest, Mustafa on. Before we get started, I just want to introduce Christian's website, gamertech.ca. You can use the promo code Nick for a $25 discount. Details will be in the description. So today I want to talk about current HR regulations and job applications, especially in the tech sector, which really affected me. And we have our guest, Mustafa. Mustafa,
Hi,
do
guys.
you want to introduce yourself briefly and your relation to this topic?
Sure. Basically, my name is Mustafa. Currently I am a licensed paralegal in the province of Ontario. However, this video, as Nick and I discussed, is not going to be legal advice per se. We're just going to examine, what the facts that is regarding hiring practices, the legality of it. Like again, we're just going to look at articles, opinions of lawyers, and some statutes, maybe a few statutes, but like we'll see mostly on hiring post status. Is that correct, Nick? We're going to see some hiring posts.
Yes, so I have some examples of actual entry-level jobs that we would be competing for, especially someone like me in the tech industry with who has worked in the tech industry as a developer. What
Yeah.
kind of jobs I, as an average developer, would have been competing for, and along with that, showing some sort of other effects of automation in HR software.
All right.
And after that, also a video of some corruption in the HR field.
Perfect. We're gonna have a wonderful show today.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think you have a few legal documents as well that can help us.
Yes, I do have a few articles to share, but we want to see some of your posts first, and then I'll screen share on my end as well. What opinions are in reaction to the hiring posts, or job posts. I don't know why I lack a better term, but let's begin.
All right, so this is my the first thing, and I got my LinkedIn profile up,
Right.
and I'm looking for Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So it's the biggest
Mhm.
city in Canada. Many major banks, major companies have their area set up.
Okay.
So that's why I set Toronto, and then mobile developer. And now I have an entry level full time position job filter here.
Okay.
So as an outsider, before I go into depth, I wanted to ask you what is entry level in your opinion?
As an outsider, I think entry level means that you don't necessarily require experience status. It's open to students or those who are new to the field. Maximum experience, I would say a few months to a year, but I would say if it says entry level, then it means no experience required.
Yeah.
They are going to train you, and this is open to again, students mostly, or new graduate status, new graduates.
Correct. So I would say it's fair to assume up to 1 year experience because
Mhm.
most schools do have co-op internships. Correct.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So and you have it, folks. That's the general public talk. I have a post here from said company, and again, we're not blaming any individual company here or singling out. We're just studying a trend,
Right.
right? So the companies I am showing, I am not targeting these companies specifically. I am only representing a trend in the market, which I am attacking.
All right. So
So if I just show you this job as a mobile developer, it does have a full-time entry-level position.
okay. And then let's see essential job functions it describes, but then basic qualifications: bachelor's degree equivalent combination of education and experience. Okay. Bachelor's degree in computer science, mathematics, or related field preferred.
Yeah, I'd say these two are fair, very
Fair.
fair to ask.
Fair.
But
4+ years as a mobile application developer? 4+? Hang on.
If I said up to 4 years, that would, again, like you mentioned, that's very reasonable. Potentially some volunteer
Right.
work and co-op up to for a new grad. But 4+ years of experience as a mobile application developer.
Yeah, because I see the rest of the points, experience in developing iOS, using native language. Okay, fair, fair. You were looking for something specific, but like 4+ years and that too in basic qualifications? And is I want to ask you, is a mobile developer program or study, I'm asking as an outsider, is that 4+ years long?
It's a bachelor's degree, which is 4 years.
But are they? But it says as a mobile application developer. Are you working as a developer in those times? In the 4+
No,
years?
no.
Wow.
It's kind of like asking, like, so in the program, many programs now, how up to, so U of T has their 16-month professional internship year, I believe it's called, or professional experience
Okay.
year. But that's 16 months, and that's the longest I've seen in terms of professional experience.
Because it says 4+ years as a mobile application, and assuming you're a professional mobile application developer. Um, and this is kind of that there's a bit of a contradiction right here, because let's go up again and it says entry level, doesn't it? Like go up, go up, go up.
Yes, it's an
The
entry level
entry
position.
level, and it says 4+ years. That makes no sense whatsoever.
And you might think that that's the only, I don't want you to think that that's the only job or the only company that's
Mhm.
doing it.
This is entry level,
This is
and
another position for an
yeah,
associate mobile developer, still an entry level position.
but who you are, a bachelor degree in business, computer science, or equivalent, okay, business, 4+ years relevant experience in native mobile. Hang on. As a business, if you have a degree in business, you're not working with mobile development, because I have a bachelor's in BBA, business administration. You are not working with native mobile development at all. So this is big contradiction, because you can't be, and I'm not sure about computer science, but as a business degree holder, if you're assuming you're just doing the 3 or 4 years of business program, you're not touching native mobile or hybrid mobile development. You're not working as a developer. You are just working in business. You're just studying business concepts. That's it. That has nothing to do with. So this is actually not fair. Of 4+ years already, and this is just entry. Okay, this already doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and this is the next position. So I'm going to be rattling off a few positions here just to show you
Oh,
what exactly we're.
we're a team
Uh,
of 7 people. Again, it says we're a team of 7 people. What's in it
so
for
this is
you?
Lightspeed is known for being a very reasonable company in this sense,
Right.
where they don't actually look at the years of experience,
Mm-hmm.
which is what they have. And I've actually attended one of their interviews at a hackathon. I'd say
Mm,
they're a very fair interviewing company,
right.
which is what I personally like. I didn't
Mhm.
get the job because I didn't have enough of the experience in
But
the
you
technical
need
languages that they were
to.
asking. But
Uh,
Lightspeed, I actually have to commend them on their
hmm.
way they conduct their interviews.
Okay, so at least they don't have unrealistic expectations. They are specific in the. What? Hang on.
This is also
Entry
another
level.
entry level position.
Entry level, and go down. I just saw something. What experience you should have? 7+ years?
A
Do I have to
graduate,
start?
a graduate student, or someone who graduated with a bachelor's degree 7 years before was in grade 9 to 10.
Yeah. 7 years before that, they would be in high school, 9 to 10. How the hell are they going to get that experience?
And considering, let's say, like, I know many schools in Toronto, at least when I was studying high school. Nowadays, it's all changed, but when I was studying high school, did not have the ICS course, meaning the computer programming course.
What?
Yeah. So I had the privilege of starting, Igor and I had the privilege of taking computer engineering together in grade 10.
This
And I started in grade 10 in terms of coding, but not many schools actually offer that course.
So this is eliminating a ton of like I get it, but like this is a very unrealistic expectation from candidates. Like if you're looking for what do you call it? And it also says, oh, you're supposed to be flexible. There's a lot of unrealistic expectations because if schools are not offering that program, what do you expect from a candidate? That's actually like, preventing someone from having an opportunity to prove themselves. And already we have a really bad job market to begin with.
Yeah, and that's where like the actual topic of today comes to, because with everything in HR being automated,
Hmm.
if it doesn't see the number 7 in a total computation there, an actual person might not actually review your resume.
Really?
Yeah, so there will be a check. Like if you look at a computer program,
Right.
it's a bunch of filters, right? So a computer is only binary. You're either true or false. You either
Right.
have 7 years of experience or more or less. Correct? It's either does this candidate have 7+ years? True or false? If you have six, even if you have 6.9, it's still false because it's not 7 or greater.
Wow.
And
So even
because like
if it comes close, they're gonna reject it automatically.
because it doesn't meet the parameters of the software. And like if you take big companies like let's say IBM, Microsoft and such, they get thousands of applications. They're not going to hire like they're not going their team of 10 HR people aren't going to go through thousands of applications, correct? They have the software to do this, but like let's say for me, I have 5 years of coding experience like in a professional setting. If there's a job that I personally can handle with my skills, but requires 6+ years, out of sheer technological advancements, and I'm putting air quotes around here, I'll get rejected, even though I am fully capable of doing such a role.
Wow. And it's so funny too, like at this point, someone has no choice but to lie on their resume.
Yeah, and that's where the issue comes, right? So I have to bullshit my way to beat that system. And if I weigh myself more than what I actually am, the company also expects me to perform more than what I am.
Wow. And it's so it's such an unrealistic expectation because like, they're gonna as like one end, they're asking a very unrealistic approach from you, and then you have to what do you call it, lie. And then it's basically a double bind, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So it's a very tough double bind. um so you could either end up misrepresenting yourself, or you could just end up being rejected and never have an opportunity to work. Okay, so it says here an overview of ethical issues in using AI systems and hiring with a case study of Amazon's AI based hiring tool. All
So this
right.
is actually a research article on that exact topic that I pointed
Okay.
out of the inaccuracies that major companies' HR
Right.
softwares might have. So
Okay.
this article will be at the description of this video for anyone who would like to go through. But in essence,
Yeah.
I'll go through the summary of it
Oh,
very briefly, so you can so the audience can understand.
all right.
So for AI,
Mhm.
what AI does is it takes previous data. Remember in grade 5, 6, possibly grade 8, when you were learning data management, you would
Mhm.
make a scatter plot and draw a line of best fit. So out of
Yeah.
all the data, what is the trend of this data? So what artificial intelligence will do is out of all the previous hiring trends, it will make the line of best fit and basically equate a dot on that. So you have your X and Y axis on a graph. Your X axis or on the base, it would be, let's say, application.
Do you happen to have a visual representation of the scatter plot by chance?
So yeah, I'll just draw it out briefly. But this
Okay.
is just in a general
It's an
sense.
illustration, a general illustration. Okay.
So if you were to have an actual diagram like this would be your X, and let's say that this is uh, applications, right? So this would be your application. I'll just type the text here.
Yeah. So applications.
And then this would be gender,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it would
Yeah.
basically make a trend saying if you were, if I draw, uh, if I draw a, come on, M here and an F here. So this would be F.
Yeah.
And this would be an M.
Okay.
And now at this point, I want to bring up the actual bias here. Like at one, we can't deny the facts that tech is a male-dominated industry, correct? In
Yes.
Scandinavian countries, the ratio is almost 1:20. So it's not that I don't want women in tech, but naturally on previous test data, you're not going to find as many women on the data as compared to men. And
Interesting.
it's not sexist at all, just natural. The statistics are there to
Yeah.
show that if you enter any engineering classroom out of 200, you're probably going to see 7 to 10 female students out of the 200 students.
Yeah.
So let's say I have 10 plots here, all in males and the number of applicants, but then I only have 1 or 2 females. Where is the line of best fit? That line will somewhere be closer to the men, correct?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Naturally speaking, the average is going to be closer to the men.
Right.
Now, what this software at Amazon did was it drew the line of best fit based off of the data in this time
Right.
and said that 60 to 75% of applicants were male,
Mm-hmm.
or applicants who got selected were male, meaning men are better candidates because they had the higher success rate. So hire only men. This is the decision that the AI came to.
Wow.
So if it saw someone who wrote women's chess club on their resume, because it saw a woman and said 75% of successful applicants are male, therefore this person statistically is not a good fit. Therefore, I must not hire her.
Wow.
And
That's
so when people say, "Oh, Nick, you're batshit crazy for saying that this some machines like tossing your resume, you're just not good enough," it actually happened in real life. One of the biggest companies in the world has made this blunder.
wow. Yeah. It's pretty shocking actually. And what was the ramification that Amazon faced when this was revealed?
So this was in 2015, and they deleted that software. And since then, they've been making a more equitable place of hire. So they basically were harassing everyone instead of only men.
Wow. So if anything, this was in 2015. This is only 6 years ago that this software was deleted.
Yeah.
So we already created a system where you have more male hirees than female in one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah, and it's not like and at this point, I want to say that it's not even a gender thing at this point because everyone is working hard in the tech industry. But it's about how inherent discriminations in software or AI.
Mm-hmm.
Because if humans were to see, because the reason why that discrimination happened is not based off of a racial or misogynistic basis. It was an unintentional consequence of previous data, which I'm sure if a human saw a woman's chess club and was
Mm-hmm.
able to calculate that experience, they would have been able to take that
Yeah. So there's a
that candidate. But
yeah.
due to training data in a sheer just mathematics binary sense,
Mm-hmm.
we were able to stop it. And at this point, AI has gotten to a point where you're just discriminated off of that binary factor. Do you have it or not?
speaking of which, we'll actually also, I just found, because you actually, brought that up, we'll also take a look at the Canadian Human Rights Act as well, because it does talk about discrimination. And the areas of discrimination. So we'll actually, do you want me to take a look at that?
Yeah. So like, I think I've made my points and I've explained myself pretty
Yeah,
clear.
but let's,
But
yeah.
like on the actual views of the legal side as well, I know you have a few legal
Yeah, I
documents and
have a
such that you
few
want to show.
documents. Yeah, I have a few documents I wanted to look at. Just give me a second. Google Chrome, there we go. Can you see?
Yes.
So this is the Canadian Human Rights. So an act to extend the laws that prescribe discrimination. So the purpose of the act, it states here that, to the principle that all individuals should have an opportunity equal with other individuals to make for themselves the lives that they are able and wish to have, their needs accommodated, consistent with their duties and obligations as members of society, without being hindered or prevented from doing so by discriminatory practices based on, let's say, based on race, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, age, sex. Sex is what we're looking at, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, marital status, family status, genetic characteristics, disability or conviction for an offense for which pardon has been granted or in respect which a record suspension has been ordered. So you cannot, so in essence, from that gibberish, what you just see, that you cannot discriminate anybody based on their race, their ethnic origin, their nationality, the skin color, the religious background that they have, their age, their sex, or in other words, male or female sex, sexual orientation, what they, if they're members of the LGBTQ, or gender identity as well. So if they identify as male or female, or expression, or they express themselves as such, you cannot discriminate them for that, or their marital status, whether they're married or not, family status, genetic characteristics, if they have any disabilities, if they have any genetic uh, hindrances, so that cannot also be a point of discrimination, or if they've even been pardoned by the justice system for a past offense. So even if someone has been pardoned, despite having a criminal history, you cannot, and they've been pardoned with proper by the justice system, you cannot discriminate against them. So now let's, and so it does put the prohibited grounds. These are called prohibited grounds of discrimination, just to specify. So race, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, age, sex, sexual orientation. So these are called prohibited grounds of discrimination. So this is, discrimination is pregnancy. If they say, if someone decides to discriminate you for your pregnancy or childbirth, this discrimination will be deemed on ground of sex. So let's see some discriminatory practices in employment. So it is discriminatory practice, directly or indirectly, to refuse or to employ or continue to employ an individual, or in the course of employment to differentiate adversely in relation to an employee on a prohibited ground of discrimination. So whether you refuse to employ somebody or during the employment, you cannot discriminate against them on any of the prohibited grounds I listed above, including sex. So this is, so Amazon was, breaking the law in this case, at least within the Canadian jurisdiction. I'm not sure about, but within Canada's human rights, it was a huge human rights violation that was committed, even though it was the AI doing it. This is a very huge human rights violation. Nick, you got something?
And I think that this is a common trend in the industry in terms of like, for major corporations at least, being on the border of breaking, if not actually breaking, any human rights violations. Because Amazon itself is notorious for
For having
treating
very,
its.
very dicey human rights, human rights, it touches the line, and it even has crossed the line many times when it comes to human rights violations as well.
Because it's
Um,
like a well-known fact that Amazon has safety nets around its warehouses just in case employees try to run away by jumping out the window. They just fall on the net and trample back in to
yeah,
go work on the assembly line.
yeah. And I also wanted to share some of the from lawyer websites about misrepresentation in terms of hiring. That is, just give me a second. I'm gonna share the screen. Just give me a second. So this is share. So can you see this?
Yes.
So this is from Spring Law, Canada Employment Human Rights Law.com. So again, this is what we're saying. We're not making this up. This is from, we're just examining the facts. So employer misrepresentation, such as overstating benefits program in order to, there's also overstating the benefits program. This is also a practice as well. Negligent misrepresentations by lawyers, by employer, not lawyer. So there are might make representations about a job or benefits at the hiring stage that later turn out to not be true. So there are usually these will not be outright lies, but reflect assumptions or lack of accurate information on part of the um, hiring team. There's a long article, but I will definitely send this link to the description. But there's also another employer. So this comes under negligence, and it gives tips for hiring practices. So this is a very short article. So there could be damages. So the employee can actually take action against the employer for negligence and making misrepresentations for any untrue or inaccurate or misleading information. So, and employers do owe a duty of care. So this could come under negligence. And I'll show you another article. Employee
You're not paid to be taken care of. You're paid to work. Now slave away, you slave.
slave away. So this is employment negligence misrepresentation. So it also talks about pitfalls for employers in the hiring process, and it does give the employers may find themselves focusing on recruiting the best brand, but they may not be aware of the risks of negligent misrepresentation during the hiring process. So there is the negligent misrepresentation, because what we just saw, like 7+ years for a new entry level, that makes no sense. So this could come under, potentially under, negligent misrepresentation. So
But wouldn't that just be their requirement, though?
the 7+ years, but if
Yeah.
they say entry level, right? They say entry level, so that's a contradictory statement. So it could become negligence or negligent misrepresentation to prospective employees. So that's why it's advisable that, if they have to take reasonable steps to inform potential employees about the information they have on the effect of their decision, um, they have to be cautious. What do you call it? There's a lot of misrepresentation. Okay. So in order to be successful for a claim of negligent misrepresentation, okay, so if an employee must establish the following: the employer owes the employee a duty of care, the representation or statement in question was untrue, inaccurate, or misleading. Again, this is also a question, misleading. Employer acted negligently in making the representation. Employee relied in a reasonable manner on a negligent misrepresentation. Now, I know it's a bit vague, like it's not very specific on the hiring practices per se, but it does state the word untrue or inaccurate or misleading. So these are the three statements we have to keep in mind. And however, the reliance on this statement resulted in damages to the employee. So the employee would have to have lost something. in order to make a claim against the employer, whether it's prospective or current employer, that is. So this is an article will also give you guys, these some pitfalls on negligent misrepresentation and hiring processes. But yeah, I've found that, oh, there's the criminal code I wanted to share as well. So can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, this is from the Justice Laws website. So justice.gc.ca. And it says in the criminal code, section 361, subsection 1, so false pretense or representation in matter of fact, either past or present, made by words or otherwise, that is known by the person who makes it to be false, and that is made with fraudulent intent to induce the person whom it is made to act on. It can even be exaggerated. So an exaggeration can also be false pretense, and also question of fact, whether it's, so if it's misrepresentation of a fact. So question of fact, exaggeration, or false pretense, all these three. So you could also potentially be looking into something more on the criminal side of things. So employers, this is not necessarily advice for employees, or there's also advice for employers for their the trend that you're actually going over the line of misrepresentation potentially.
Yeah. And on that note as well, like I want to share a small video and get your opinion on it.
Okay.
Let me get this to actually play here. Yeah, I'm using an older laptop, you guys. I apologize. So this came into news recently, and it's about the Better.com CEO firing 900 employees on Zoom, rather, and him getting a $25 million bonus that year.
Wow. All right, let's play this.
If you're looking for an example of the worst possible way to terminate employees, look no further than the CEO of the loan company Better.com. Less than 3 weeks before Christmas, he fired 900 people all at once via Zoom. Here's Les Trent.
It's the call no one ever wants to get.
I come to you with not great news.
The CEO of the popular online mortgage lender Better.com used a company Zoom meeting to inform 900 employees they were all being fired.
Your employment here is terminated, effective immediately.
You can hear the reaction of one woman who recorded the meeting.
This is not real. Oh my God, I can't believe this. After all we did.
Better.com is worth an estimated $8 billion and employs more than 6,500 people. It's headquartered right here at No. 3 World Trade Center in Manhattan. And get this, Forbes magazine recently ranked it #1 on its list of best places to work. Vishal Garg attempted to express sympathy.
It's been a really, really challenging decision to make, and I do not want to do this.
But in a posting to a professional networking site, he wrote, "You guys know that at least 250 of the people terminated were working an average of 2 hours a day while clocking 8 hours plus a day in the payroll system. They were stealing from you. Get educated."
It was atrocious.
We spoke to HR expert Deb Muller.
Talk to your employees about what's going on. Give them the information. Be transparent about why the decisions were made and how the selections were made as well. Tell them what to expect going forward, and then make sure there is that personal touch afterwards.
And while it's awful to lose your job, according to the latest numbers released last week by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there are more than 10 million open jobs in America.
And out of all the open jobs, all of them require 7 to 10 years of experience.
Wow, what an I apologize if I what an a-hole. What an a-hole. He decides to fire 900 employees over a Zoom call, and then tries to make this excuse that, oh, they were only working 2+ hours a week. And this is the same man who got a bonus of that year.
And on that note, like Mustafa, like I just wanted to ask you, like, what I know termination sucks, but at one point you got to do it, right? So, how should terminations themselves be done in a legal manner? You're the expert in that
I
field.
think there is a process. You have to give notice to employees. I'm not sure about the US, but I know in Canada, just give me a second here. So I know there is layoff law in Canada. Just give me a second so that I'm not making anything up. Section 52 of Labor Standards Act. So
And once
there's
you have
the
the sheet, you can
temporary
share your
layoff
page.
or dismissal. Okay, just give me a second. I'm just opening the website. Okay, I'll share the screen right now. So we're gonna look at, and again, this is just Canadian. So from Canada.ca. So can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is for termination, layoff, or dismissal. So interns, there's the under Part 3 of Canada Labor must be paid at least minimum wage. Student interns who are undertaking internships, entitled to receive federal labor standards protections, not required to be paid. So it's intern, and then there's student intern as well. So these are different. And then there's also COVID-19 as well. Due to the coronavirus, there may be changes to this program. But yeah, so according to the labor code, so involves the, outlines the procedures when terminating the employment of individual employees, or when a group involves 50 or more employees from a single industrial establishment who are dismissed simultaneously within a 4-week period. So you have to, so this is regarding 50 plus, so notice of termination. So it says here, in federally regulated employees do not have to give their employer notice if they choose to quit. However, if the employer chooses to terminate the position, they must either provide the employee with at least 2 weeks written notice. In lieu of such notice, pay the employees 2 weeks regular wages. Then there's the thing called a temporary layoff. A layoff is considered a termination of employment when the employer has no intention of recalling the employee to work. In these cases, employers have responsibilities and obligations to the employees, usually associated with the termination of the employee's benefits, or some such defined rights as protected against from unjust dismissal. So we'll also look into this, an unjust dismissal. So this is talking about group termination. It's the termination of 50 or more employees. So when he terminated 900, so this counts as group termination. So it's either on the same date or within any 4-week period. In such cases, employers must notify the head of compliance and enforcement in writing of their planned group termination of employment at least 16 weeks before the employment termination begins. Employers are also required to give notice of individual termination or pay in lieu of notice, as well as the group termination of employment notice to each individual identified as part of the group. So they have to give notice in advance. So the employer, along with employee representatives, must establish a joint planning committee immediately upon providing a notice of group termination. So an employer may request that the Minister of Labor waive an employer's requirement to give notice. He has to, if he wants to waive that off, he has to contact the Minister of Labor, cooperate with the Employment Insurance Commission, and provide employees with a written statement of benefits, and or establish a joint planning committee when it can be shown that it would be unduly prejudicial to the interest of the employees, it would seriously detrimental to the operation, or similar measures are already in place. So these are the 3 requirements. So you have to ensure, these are the 3 requirements, that you have to show that it would affect the interest of the current employees, and it would be detrimental to the industry itself, like the establishment, and there are similar measures already in place. So these are the 3 requirements. To make a waiver form. There's a form. There is a form as well to assist employers. So you have to fill out this form as well. For general information, so let's also open this in another tab as well, just to see. So this severance pay. An employee has the right to collect severance pay even if they have completed at least 12 consecutive months of continuous employment before their layoff. So they are entitled 2 days regular wages for each full year that they worked before the termination. The minimum benefit is 5 days wages. So the minimum benefit they should receive is 5 days wages. So, and then it just covers unjust dismissal. So excluding managers who have completed at least 12 months of continuous employment with the same employer and were not covered by a collective agreement from unjust dismissal. This is assuming they don't have a collective agreement, they're not unionized. Unjust dismissal may include cases of constructive dismissal where the employer has not directly fired but has failed to comply with the contract, has unilaterally and substantially changed the terms, or has expressed an intention to do either of these. So you can even file a dismissal complaint as well for employees. So they can file a complaint and an unjust dismissal, and then there's a mediation process. You can go to the labor board. So now we also have, so it does cover this. So this is the form that they have. These are the forms that they have to fill out. So this is the notice to the Minister of Labor of a termination of employment and request for waiver. So you want to fill out this form if you want to not give notice, but otherwise you have to give notice to your employees. So I don't have all the facts regarding this person, but I feel like he did not give any notice to his staff whatsoever. So that's the assumption I'm making. Again, I don't have the facts, and this is also U.S. jurisdiction. So, but I'm just stating what is required in Canada.
Yeah, and I know like in Canada, this firing and such due to COVID, many startups and many other businesses were failing. I totally understand that. Like if, let's say I did work for a company that did go belly up, and I did in previous, I worked for startups that did go belly up.
Yeah.
I'm not, if they can't give me the notice beforehand, like, and there's genuine reason there, I'm not going to be pissed. But like for a company that's supposedly made a positive or a profit and clearly is able to pay him a nice hefty bonus.
Because it wasn't necessarily detrimental to his business or anything like that. I think he was just able to get a good chunk off of his the pay. So a good chunk of pay. So he gets this big slice of the pie, and then he lays off 900 employees 3 weeks
right before Christmas.
And right before Christmas. And the reason could be that he did not want to pay the employees any time for time off, or he did not want to, even if they decided to work on those days, did not want to pay them overtime, because you have to actually pay overtime for those days if they decide to work. And I feel like he also did not because the longer the term usually is, the what do you call it? Okay, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I think usually long tenured employees tend to expect more. So I think he's just getting rid of that, the longer term employees who've worked for so long. Because one of the lady, the lady who showed the video that she can't believe this, she is given so much to the company, and next thing you know, she's just let go over a Zoom call, no less, without any notice. I think because they expect a lot more, so they will probably hire new employees who will probably expect lower pay. So this is kind of like a form of, this is how they're going to get away with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like something that is shady in a sense.
Yeah.
With some sort of ulterior
motives
than what's mentioned there.
Yeah, and it's so sad. I feel very sad for the 900 people let go just 3 weeks prior to 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 Christmas, and it's such a shitty time to. I apologize for using this word because this is the time where they're collecting their paychecks, they're buying gifts, they're making plans to spend a dinner or with family, and I'm assuming a lot of them, it's going to be difficult for them to find employment during Christmas time in December because most companies are closing their books at this point.
Yeah, like, it's definitely a really hard thing, and like I hope this was a productive podcast just to bring out the
Ethical issues.
ethical issues in the HR processes. And
Yeah.
like another point is like there's so many issues in terms of like the Adderall addiction as well in order for and the higher suicide rates in the tech. Like if you look at Japan or Korea where the academics are
Yeah.
super strong, it's even more competitive. There's so many kids committing suicide because
Wow.
of that.
Wow. And this is something we also would love to look into, mental health regarding this field as well. So we could definitely do in the tech industry, that is mental health in the tech industry. We can actually take a look into that as well, on another topic too, if you like.
Yeah, and like I'm planning a podcast in the future, especially about mental health itself. And this is a topic that I did want to discuss with the guest.
Yeah.
And I do talk about it. She has an organization that I believe does great work, and she is going to be coming on to discuss that.
Perfect.
So this is a topic that before I had her on, I want to discuss as well, almost as a pre-log to that, and also have this as one of those legality of in the channel. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the podcast and stuff. How do you have any other things to add about the topic today?
Yeah, no, nothing else to add, but yeah, so what we've just shown is just the facts, like and again, this is just from the Canadian perspective. I am not knowledgeable about US jurisdictions, whether it's state or federal jurisdictions, but we've only shown you the Canadian side of things, as well as, we've only examined facts. Do not take this as legal advice. Do not take this because we're only showing you facts. So this is not legal advice. So if you want legal advice, or if you want, it's better you talk to a lawyer of your jurisdiction, that is, a lawyer or a paralegal of your jurisdiction. So don't consider this legal advice, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an employee. I would also recommend looking into the websites that we'll provide in the link description below. So thank you guys so much. I don't have anything else to add, but just giving these disclaimers.
For sure. So thank you guys for joining me on this episode, and thank you, Mustafa, for coming on. And I hope if you do have any questions or concerns, please do leave a comment as well. I definitely respond or read every comment that I get. So if there are any questions, concerns, or such, I'll try to get back to you as well.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Let's get out of here.